Oh, Kathy,
Hi.
how do you want me to pronounce your name? Is Kathy, or how do you?
Um, it's Katie.
Katie. Oh, I was wrong twice.
There we go. That's okay.
Uh, Allow me a minute to set it up. I just finished another meeting and it ran a
Of
little bit in
course.
overtime.
Of course,
But
do your thing.
yeah, did you receive my brief?
Yes, with the questions.
Yeah, I added two questions. These are typical questions, one at the beginning and one at the end of the talk. The talk
Okay.
will be about 50 minutes or so, 55 minutes. It's a chat. It's not a so let me just open the brief and we can get started.
Okay.
Need to find my I'm sorry, but I need to set it up and somehow what time is it to your place?
It is 10:30 in the morning.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
9:30 here in Dallas. So
Ah, okay. Will you be watching the England game this weekend?
no, I hope so, but I'm not sure yet if I will. How about you?
Well, I went to Mexico last weekend,
Okay.
which was amazing. However, I'm on a plane tomorrow, to Sweden, so I will miss the game.
Oh, so you okay. No,
Yes.
I'm going to Mexico next week, but and I'm sure I'll hear a lot about people
Okay.
crying over the game. Happens is my I'm sorry. Give me 1 second again.
Of course.
I, as I'm talking, I almost there, Kathy.
Okay.
Please. So I'll start with a very brief introduction about the event, and then I'll introduce you or ask you to introduce yourself if you prefer. Probably it's more natural if I ask you to introduce yourself,
Okay.
and then we go in the conversation.
Okay.
Okay. So let me one more second. Okay, let me start. Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talk series, brought to you by AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first organization, non-profit organization and industry consortium uh, focus on bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. And of course, digital transformation includes AI. Actionable ESG Talk series bring together great minds to discuss the current and future state of ESG, sustainability, AI, and digital transformation. And I'm really delighted to have you, Katie, today for an in-depth discussion. Uh, let's take a minute for you to introduce yourself to our audience and then we'll proceed.
Great, Manuel. Well, thank you so much for having me. My name is Katie Neck. I am founder of Sustain Futures. We focus on AI and climate upskilling. The business is 3 years old now, and this year we have been nominated for the 2026 Earthshot Prize. I have also been recently appointed an ambassador to Anthropic, the company behind Claude, and this is for the sustainability and climate change community. And over the last 3 years, Sustain Futures has delivered future skills programs for companies like Arsenal FC, Dyson, Adobe, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund, the PIF, Shoesmiths, and SailGP, which has been a global academy. And previously to that, I had sustainability roles at McLaren in Formula One and consulting across businesses at Capgemini.
Oh, excellent introduction and amazing biography, Katie. You crossing the industries, which is rare in the sustainability world, right? Usually people are more in one or another part of the industry. So um, I'm not sure we have time today to go in every aspect of it, but there are a lot of names that I'm very curious to hear more about it. And that will lead sort of the first topic that I wanted to bring forward, which is trends in sustainability. From your, you know, first seat kind of vantage place, what do you see as current trends in sustainability with a focus on the supply chain because that's the way our organization works?
Well, I'm quite an optimistic person, Manuel, so I am not being absorbed by the headlines. But in terms of trends, since maybe 2020, 2021, when sustainability was very cool and very trendy, obviously we've seen a bit of a lull in that over the last couple of years due to geopolitics, I would say. That hasn't meant that climate change has stopped impacting supply chains. And actually, the trend that I see right now is, especially in the UK and across Europe, is the heat waves that are impacting everyone personally. And I think that is a trend of making people more aware of the impacts of climate change, and they're personally and physically starting to understand how extreme weather at the moment it's heat, in the winter obviously it will be colder temperatures and more storms and floods. I'm seeing that people are starting to understand and wake up that this is really impacting us as humans, but also supply chains as well. So for supply chain leaders, they now have valid use cases and examples of how disruption has been affecting supply chain. So it's very real now, but the solutions are starting to scale. All the technology exists. The capital isn't in the right places at the moment for innovations to truly scale. But there are real life examples now, which the board can't ignore.
Absolutely. And I was going to ask you if you think it's good news, no news, or bad news that sustainability is sort of dropping from the first page of newspapers. And as you indicated, by the way, and I should add, Washington suffered the same on the July 4th, the national holiday. There were cancellation of events because of heat, you know, extreme heat.
Yes, I think everything is being impacted now. I was in Mexico last week for the England game, which was delayed by 1.5 hours due to thunderstorms and lightning. So, even a big global event like July 4th or the World Cup is being impacted by extreme weather. However, your question about news and headlines, the headlines aren't giving the right picture because it's just talking about weather. It's not talking about extreme weather and these extreme weather events becoming more and more regular. So yes, we are seeing this in the news. However, there is still not a systemic connect to this becoming a more frequent event. We also have ourselves to blame for that as a sustainability community. The jargon and the language that we use is totally arbitrary to people outside of our echo chamber. So we talk about sustainability in one sentence, which we know is kind of conserving resources, reducing emissions. But then we talk about climate change, and there is a big disconnect between how those two things are related, and how we can start to make changes. Like if you talk about millions of tons of CO2 emissions, that's so arbitrary to so many people. But if you talk about heat stress and children not being able to go to school and people not being able to travel to work, then that becomes a bit more real.
No, absolutely. And actually, to make a point to what you said, many times I see confusion in the news between weather and climate. As you mentioned, climate measures the frequency of weather events, not the weather events itself. So Do we get thunderstorms more frequently? Yes, it's a climate change
Yes.
over a period of, I think, 30 years, by the way. And the other point, yes, we sort of encapsulated in sustainability at least three major parts: environmental, people, and economic, right?
Mhm.
Profitability so many times sustainability is misconstructed as changing of the economic system as opposed to be part of supporting the economic system to be better to the environment, better to the people, to the customers. So, but moving a little bit to what you are doing so effectively, and the question of skills. We talked about the weather and the climate. How about people?
Yes, Emmanuel, it's the most important element of this conversation, which is readiness for this. Like, this is inevitable. I think we are past, honestly, I think we're past the mitigation stage. I think we are heading into a much different environment for the planet. And I don't think people are ready for this, both personally and professionally. So, the way that we've been approaching skills at Sustain Futures is in three measures. One is green skills. This is climate fluency. This is understanding regulation, and this is getting prepared for change. Really, so green skills could be in a procurement function, understanding how to decarbonize a supply chain, which does sound technical to most procurement teams, but it's something that they're going to have to know because, as you know, of your experience in supply chains, farmers aren't able to grow the crops that they used to. Oil prices are going up. There's so much change and disruption in supply chains that those supply chain leaders, procurement teams, logistics, anyone that has something to do with the supply chain of an organization needs to have climate fluency to understand the risk that's coming to their business. It's inevitable. The second is AI. And AI is obviously part of every single conversation now. But we as a sustainability community are so rich in data, but we're not rich in data science skills. So a supply chain leader has a rich amount of data, probably across many platforms, lacking maybe supplier data. AI is the perfect example to be able to make that process autonomous, more efficient, and more beneficial to reporting and to obviously decarbonisation as well. The third is probably the most important thing, and that's mindset. And we've been very intentional and deliberate about having mindset in that conversation, because you can have the green skills, you can understand the climate, you can use AI, you don't need to code, you just need to be a human being to be able to explain things to Claude or whatever you're using. The third is mindset, and we're seeing this play out every single day across different seniority levels, across different industries, and some people don't yet have the right mindset to be getting ahead of this. And some people do. Some people are really stepping forward, championing, upskilling themselves, and really flying ahead of a lot of people. To anyone listening, if you are in a business that's using Copilot and you're writing your emails with Copilot, you are not upskilling. That is not using AI. That is it's a tool that your business has given to you, but no way is that using AI in the way that it can be used. So I would encourage anyone that's listening to have the right mindset. Just challenge yourself, be vulnerable. This is all new, but it's all inevitable and it's all going to be disruptive to a business, both climate and AI. So, do you have the resilience? Do you have the mindset to adapt? And do you have the curiosity and the vulnerability to be open to using these new tools? Because it's nothing like we've known before. The way that I work, the way that everyone is going to be working in the future is going to change. In the past, we have traveled to work, or now people work from home. You sit, open your laptop, you're typing, you're moving your mouse. AI can do most of that. AI can, anything you can do with your keyboard and with your mouse, AI can do, and it can probably do it better. But you are the expert. You have the expertise of what needs to be done. So you are remaining the human in the lead or human in the loop, and you are guiding this new technology to the outcomes that you need in your role.
Well, it's so much to unpack. My mind is going fast. On the agricultural and the environmental part, I was thinking about coffee beans, chocolate, dear to my heart. Uh, no, and olive oil in Italy, and so olive in Italy, and on and on and on. List of examples where the climate is visible, affecting the socio-economic, the social fabric of people all over the world. Absolutely. On the AI topic, I have to go for a full disclosure. I'm also an instructor and lecturer in Cornell, and part of my portfolio is amazingly and unexpectedly sustainability and AI. No, not connected, but you establish the connection, and we can have a whole session only on the role of AI. But one thought trying to share with you is I read recently about AI companies hiring people with background in hiring more people with background in philosophy great than actually it's the economist actually than in computer sciences. So maybe the next step is to get a few people with background in sustainability, as you mentioned, and the mindset, the right mindset to establish this disconnected actually parts between supply chain, and I'll go into that in a second, AI and data, because we two things. AKFI has alliances with organizations like ISCA, Big C. ISCA is the Supply Chain Education Alliance. Big C is the an organization that is very sort of unknown, but is the one which actually specifies the data centers, the hyperscalers. Everything you read in newspapers, or most of the things are based on the designs of or people certified by this organization. So, very important part of the AI. But we studied also AI in the context of supply chain, and we're actually working on a framework because we notice a big gap in the information transfer. We call it the sustainability transaction standard. All the sustainability is vertical. It's industry by industry, company by company, and the supply chains are horizontal. They crossing industries and so on. So we're looking actually to how to promote this sustainability transaction standard, how to start the process of developing a standard to to make the transfer of this information efficient and economic. Because it's a gap. So when I'm saying about AI cannot fill that gap. AI can just inform us about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talk about systems thinking all the time. But now a systems thinking is coming back to the person because you have to define the system, the process, the workflow that's kind of been invisible before to get the data to where it needs to be.
Absolutely. And, again, we can have a whole track on system thinking. I do have a certificate from Cornell where I'm also instructor. And yes, absolutely. System thinking, it's fundamental. And I have a little, uh, sticky on my desk reminding me about thinking, system thinking. One thing which I also notice that we don't think the right way is we cannot go to the second, third level of unintended, what the economists call unintended consequences. So, I'll give you an example from sustainability. And the example is as we clean up the air and the smoke and so on, we increase the solar absorption of the earth, which creates global warming. Well, what do we, so did we fix pollution? Yes, especially in European countries. And now we have to figure out how we manage a heat wave.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know it's so obvious, but the answer is more trees in urban areas. Last week in Mexico, we were very cool because there's so many trees in Mexico City, which houses 22 million people. And from the work that we've been doing in Saudi Arabia as well, their answer is planting, I think it's 2 trillion trees by 2030, because they know that their ambient temperature is going to increase, and to attract more water, more rain, more shade is going to cool, with more trees, it's going to cool down the ambient temperature, and obviously absorb more carbon as well for air quality.
Right. Exactly. But this is this system thinking process that as we, move to the next step, we find solutions and we find new problems and new solutions to the problem. Also in India, they recommend to paint white the roofs. So use white paint instead of color paint, which absorbs more, for instance. That makes me thinking of black cars. So absolutely, there is, in you did do a perfect job at explaining these interconnections, right? Between and now mindset, it's probably the most difficult. Almost I cannot touch it because I'm an engineer. So engineers are a class on their own of mindsets, right? We are problem solvers, and if we don't have a good problem to solve, we create a problem to solve.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not to talk against my profession. uh, and if we get more into the skill gaps and the experience you have with directly with your companies that you advise, you support, I'm not sure if you're teaching them actually, if you are actively involved in the education or you are only involved in the uh, advisory.
Yeah, actively involved all the time. As founder, I have to do everything all the time. So yes, it's running the business, but also delivering sessions. We have an amazing group of facilitators that are experts across AI, across green skills. And across facilitation, which is encouraging new mindsets and curating learning environments that are creating impact. So we very actively haven't ever done e-learning. And we won't do e-learning as a business because we know, and I know from working in big corporate, that if you have mandatory ESG training or any mandatory training that you have to watch on a video, you are pressing the next button to get through it as quickly as possible. You're not absorbing anything, and it's pretty pointless. It's just compliance and tick boxing. So we are very deliberately the complete opposite of that. And the clients that we work with are receiving that very well and asking us for more of that as well. So from a business perspective, I'm sure investors would love me to scale quickly and get more customers and use videos, but we very actively decided not to do that. And recently, I've been quite grateful that we made that decision early on, because everything is available on the internet now. Information is democratized. Unfortunately, a lot of academic papers are not yet, accessible and trained in our LLMs, which is a huge missing part of AI development. But any video can be created by AI now in a few minutes. So the barriers to entry for companies that are doing e-learning is now very low. So I'm very grateful that we have remained human, that we are doing, we still deliver virtually and in person, a hybrid model, but everything is live, everything is facilitated, and everything has the human at the center of it.
So it's more high, you feel and this is sort of what I see from academia, there is a trend to go back to hybrid or even face to face as a reaction of, you know, uh, overwhelming number of courses you can take.
Yeah. Absolutely. And having peers to learn with and conversations, debates in person, uh, that is how you're making people feel. And that's what people remember more than stats on a video or on a page.
Right. And going a little bit deeper, I think we need to even change the way we teach and we communicate. And this is where AI comes in as an assistant. And we have to learn. We in instructors, right? In the
Mhm.
academia, we need to learn how to use AI as an assistant. I think we are on our own learning curve. Maybe a little bit about being an insider in Anthropic as an ambassador. How do you see this process?
So my role with Anthropic is completely voluntary and unpaid. So I'm an ambassador to the sustainability and climate change community. And what that means is hosting events for uh, people in our community, companies in our community. So it could be B Corp companies, SBTI approved companies, 1% for the planet, for example, and 501(c)s as well. So later on in the year, we'll be hosting an event for 501(c)s, and for people outside of America, that's charities and non for profits. And we'll be hosting a whole impact lab for 501(c)s that are supporting ocean restoration or anyone that is kind of doing conservation for the oceans. We're doing that down in Florida Keys, and Anthropic will be funding that. So that's my role with Anthropic, is making sure that the technology goes into the right places. Why did I choose to work with them, and why did they choose to work with me? It's because of the ethics and the morals around the company. So, as a business owner, I have my own personal brand, but also the business's brand reputation to be responsible for. So, partnering with an AI company obviously is contradictory to that. However, Anthropic have been designed by the human constitution. So their models and the way that you work with Claude is designed for human beings. So they won't be selling ads and keeping you hooked into this technology. Claude will kind of tell you when to stop or when to take a break or be very human back to you. They've just launched a big campaign around asking hard questions. So they are walking into and taking a step forward into those uncomfortable questions, and they are owning the conversation. Um, and most of the leaders and both of the founders left ChatGPT or OpenAI because of the ethics. So they are a AI safety company first, and I genuinely believe that they are the good uh, the good guys and girls in a bad race. Do I agree with AI being scaled the way it is? Absolutely not. However, I do believe that Anthropic have the right intentions, and they are being very open and encouraging this technology to be used in the right places, of which education obviously sits within that as well. So there's amazing resources, free courses that is provided by Anthropic for everyone, and there's also there's specific streams for educators as well, to make sure that educators are well versed in the technology and using it in the best way they can. It's all free.
Right. And actually, free, it's only the starting, right? We can have Coursera courses free. The very important part is what attracts people to the topics and the education, and that circle back to the mindset. And I think the biggest effort for the sustainability, if we want to call it an industry, is not, but the sustain, and I hesitate to call it a movement because of sometimes bad connotations. But the sustainability is definitely requires a mindset, uh, and there are papers about generational mindset. They were, in my opinion, in my views, they were misinterpreted. They were saying, if you are young, you have to pay more for sustainability. That was a misdirected or a misguided recommendation for marketing. Uh, but I know, and we work with interns, we work with students in the Gen Z group that definitely have this mindset that is different, is clearly different, and I hope it will percolate in the socio-political, economical system eventually, and that's where Anthropic, I think, is coming. That's
Mhm,
uh, where they are the ones which are looking at AI in a much more different way than just a competition of who has the you know right AI, whatever right means.
mhm, mhm,
And going in AI and sustainability, that's again this gap because we assume that data is available and is ready for AI. Data, my sort of one-liner is data. It's everywhere, but nowhere to be found. So it's in all kind of places. It's used in all kind of situations. But when I talk with the people in the industry, when I talk with the people, with the students, they basically say, "Well, yes, but it's under lock and key. Yes,
mm,
but people don't want to give access to data because they are afraid about their jobs." So there is this mindset almost at this point reaching a sort of political level in the US at least, where
mhm.
saying AI is bad. AI is bad for the communities, bad for electricity, is bad for resources. So in some way, uh, they're saying AI is bad for sustainability, and it has to be corrected. You know, and one last thought on AI. I was saying before, engineers are to solve problems. AI has a major problem with electricity and cooling. It's
Yes.
going to be solved. We went to mainframe computers in, two, three generations of people to, look what you have on your table.
Mhm.
It's more powerful than many of the computers of the previous era.
Yeah, this is the most inefficient that AI is ever going to be, is today.
Exactly. The most inefficient and the most mispromoted, right? We're going to end up with a lot of data centers which will be under utilized.
Hmm, hmm,
Once you have competition, the nature of competition is to have one or two, one horse or two winning
hmm,
the race.
hmm,
You-
hmm.
You're talking about football or soccer games, the way we call them here. And unfortunately, there is a winner and a loser every game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, right now in China, there are data centers that are underwater, run on renewable energy from wind. So it's totally possible. The technology exists. The current challenge is egos, I think, capital flowing into the wrong places and being used for the wrong reasons. Because right now, with the land use change in the US, uh, it's really serious, and communities are winning. Communities are backlashing because they already have water stress or noise pollution from data centers. So there's a reason why this is all happening right now in the US. And in the next few years, hopefully we will see some change. But I do believe that the hype around AI is exactly that. This will plateau. Right now, we are really in a hype cycle, and this is to inflate share prices and inflate company valuations. That doesn't necessarily match actually what we're seeing within organizations, that AI adoption is really slow because people don't have the skills to use it and they don't have the mindset to use it. And security, in Europe we have GDPR. That doesn't exist over here, so there's a lower barrier to entry. But there is a big hype right now, and actually large enterprises adopting it is quite slow because of security and because of lack of skills.
Absolutely, and also, um, you know. to go deeper, there are limitations on the model. AI is not yet capable to be, for instance, fully utilizing robotics.
Yeah.
It doesn't understand physics or dynamics that a person or an animal can manage from very early stages,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Where I am really excited is for climate tech startups, for nature monitoring, restoration. I'm really excited for these small businesses that have been like maybe pre-seed, seed, Series A funding rounds that have got small teams, big ambitions. This is the most amazing use case. And this is where I'm most excited because, as we said at the top of the call, all this technology exists. Capital just isn't flowing in the right places. Every solution that we need exists and it's out there. It's being developed by incredible PhD students that are raising money to scale their business. This is where AI is going to make a huge amount of difference, whether it's marketing or raising capital or identifying customers, building proposals, whatever it might be. The actual operations of small businesses is changing so quickly. And for us as a small business, we have agents running 24/7 now. I have the equivalent of probably 4.5 full-time employees based on what I'm able to do with Claude. So we are able to increase our outputs. We are able to explore new opportunities. We are able to automate so many laborious manual tasks. I don't want my team building PowerPoints. I do not want them to do that. They should be using Claude Code to code whatever it is that we need to build into a PDF, for example. So the mandate from me is use Claude Code for pretty much everything that you can do, because I don't want to pay my team to be fiddling around with text boxes and colors and that kind of thing, because we don't need to be doing that as human beings anymore. But we can still be so creative and commercial, just using different tools.
And no, you're absolutely right. And thinking actually at emerging and small businesses and startups, I wanted to make an observation. It seems to be AI seems to bifurcate in two directions. One, solve the problem with funding, and we just need to look at the stock of prices of Nvidia and so on. So brute force approach versus innovative approach, using people's minds to. And when you are a small company, when you are a startup, I advise number of startups. When you are a startup, you don't have the luxury of funding. Okay, you may get $500 million in funding. That's not enough to break into the space of the Googles of the world, right, or Microsoft. So innovation is going to it's the innovation is going to win.
Yeah. And Manuel, as you know, like with supply chains and procurement policies, to win big contracts, you need to have a certain amount of employees, you need to have security regulations. There's so many barriers to entry for small
Sure.
businesses to big supply chains. Um, that needs to have a complete overhaul and a rethink, because now and in the next few years, solopreneurs that are developing incredibly good solutions are going to be the answer. Whether they need to raise money or not as well is something else, because in the past you would raise millions of dollars or pounds or euros or whatever it might be to develop a platform that would be pre-revenue because from an idea. Now
Mhm.
anyone can build a solution quite low cost. So are big supply chain leaders thinking about the innovations that are coming through from a solopreneur, from a very small business that doesn't need too many employees? Because right now you can't even get a look in to get a master service agreement or to be part of a procurement framework if you have
Sure.
no employees, for example. So that really does need a real mindset shift to bring these innovations into the supply chains of large organizations to really help, whether it's decarbonize, develop circular business models, whatever it might be. This innovation is very, very small companies actually building quite powerful things.
You're absolutely right. And I dealt in my career with, arm length to procurement and
Mhm.
service agreements and so on. And yeah, the first question you are asked if you are a director in procurement is, uh, are they able to supply what they promise they supply? And it's like, oh, there are two people only. You cannot sign the agreement because you don't have the possibility. And big fits big. But I'll offer a model. Think of a dam, big dam on a big river, right? How dams break? They leak a little bit and a little bit more, and suddenly, you have a flood. And this is how small companies, I think, act against the barriers, the dams raised by these large companies, which have, well, not so deep pockets anymore if you watch the news, but anyway, deeper pockets to supply the AI on a sort of a linear thinking, going back to system thinking on a linear thinking model, right? What's
Mhm.
in the past is going to be the future. It's not going to be that way.
Absolutely not. No, no. And I'm encouraging for young people and your students and any young person that's listening, um, that their opportunity is now. They don't need to be waiting to get a job in a big business. They can be building something right now, whether that's their social media presence on a topic that they're enjoying, or platforms, or test beds, or prototypes, whatever it might be. If when I speak to young people, I really encourage them to stop spending time on their CV. Stop trying to recreate your CV for every job role that you're applying to. Go into the business, look at the business, build them a prototype, build them something in 10 minutes, which is less time than updating your CV for them, and send it to them and say, hey, I saw this about your business, whether it's, I don't know, their social media stream. Go and build them a new infographic. Go and build them
Mm.
a point of view, a thought leader paper, whatever it might be, or go and build them a complete platform to help with their supply chain management. I don't know. But spend time on exploring the problems in a business, build them a solution in under 10 minutes, and that can be a better intro than a black and white PDF CV that all look the same. When you're
Which
young,
which goes in the same AI engine, actually. Nobody
exactly.
reads it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. We are just about to hire we're going to do a summer intern program. We'll be hiring social media interns, but their role will be to manage agents. So they don't need to have coding experience. They need to be curious. They need to understand sustainability language and be clear on it. But they need to develop their AI skills, because they will be managing the agents that will run our social media for us. I'm not asking for CVs. I'm asking for creative designs. I'm asking for the way that you're thinking. Build me a workflow on a piece of paper and
Proof
send me
of
your LinkedIn profile. I don't need a
proof of
CV.
work, proof of work, proof of
Yes.
understanding of what the job requires, right? Because that's much deeper. And it's the first time I hear about this process. With your permission, I may recommend it to others. We do have interns. We are fortunate that our interns actually find jobs. They graduate and they
Yeah.
find jobs in the sustainability. And
Mhm.
the fact that work with our organization gave them a first level of information so they were very, very happy with us because of that. And we talked about finance and we talked quite a lot, but there is another element of sustainability finance. And what we noticed recently, maybe it's not a recent process, but we all knew about funds like green bonds and so on. But we went a little bit deeper in AKFI on the process of these bonds being issued. And we found out a couple of interesting things related to sustainability. First thing, number one, the barrier to obtain these funds is almost uneconomical for the company because there is a little bit differential in the interest rate, but that doesn't compensate for the paperwork. Now, the
Mhm.
paperwork, interestingly enough, is related to ESG and sustainability because the company, maybe easy to think about it, um, because the financial companies do not have actually the processes or the understanding of sustainability and ESG. So they use the ESG as a proxy to understand how well is the company, um, let's say, ranking in
Hmm.
sustainability. Is it real? Is it, just greenwashing? Dressing up dressing up the windows, they say.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you notice this with the finance, and if you have some experience. Of course, if you run a early stage company, I don't know exactly what stage you definitely have to deal with financial industry. And by the way, insurance industry is also following the same pattern.
Yeah, I think we do have a big bank as one of our clients, and we are upskilling their global procurement team against their transition plan, and what procurement professionals need to know about the future. So I personally haven't raised money for this business. It's been bootstrapped for the last 3 years, and we've grown very organically. And I wouldn't necessarily be looking to raise money anytime soon because we don't need it. We are doing a lot agentically now, so that lessens the need for raising capital. But I think there's a lot of ignorance in the financial services industry around quite how much assets are going to depreciate, around insurance premiums. Actually, yesterday I coded for another bank a SME tool. So this is for small businesses. They tap in their location, they tap in their stock value if they have any stock in warehouses, and they tap in the assets that they own. So if they're renting or they own the buildings that they're working in, how much staff they have, what their turnover is, like just a very short survey. And using their location data, we are able to model for the next 10 years the cost of climate change to them. So that would be an asset, a property depreciating because of flooding or heat stress. It could be loss of uh, capital employed. So if you can't get into work because of heat stress, lots of different variables we've put into this model. And we've also done it on weather predictions, and whether the AMOC is going to actually break or stop working anytime soon. So we've got different scenarios and different models, but instead of using a 1.5 scenario or 2 degrees scenario, we are just using local weather data because that's what they care about.
Sure.
So if it's 30 degrees, if it's 35 degrees or 40 degrees, which is not unlikely now in the summers in the UK, that business can personally see the financial risks to them. But we've also included the adaptation costs. So if they are putting solar panels on their roof to reduce their energy consumption when they need to put the air conditioning on, for example, there's lots and lots of ways that they can mitigate the cost and the risk, but also they just need to adapt for these inevitable scenarios. So that was a request from a bank. They are thinking about it. However, I think the biggest impact that the financial services industry can have is by divesting any investments that they have within fossil fuel companies and pension pots as well, to be fully focused on ESG companies, which are giving the same returns, if not more in some cases.
Unfortunately, not all the world goes in the same direction. For instance, in the US, Florida, Texas, and a couple of other states expressly prohibit using ESG as a metric for
Yes.
pension plans and other funds where the government is
Yeah.
investing, right?
Yeah. Although I
So
did read the other day that Texas has just renewables have just overtaken in Texas as the primary energy source.
that's that's a secret. And by the way, the current political and sort of war situations in the world lead to more renewables, right?
Yeah.
Especially, I I don't know if to predict, but I think Europe will move, and China is already moving in that direction with massive solar farms and wind farms and
Mhm.
looking at and maybe looking back at nuclear to make it safer and sustainable.
It's an absolute no-brainer. It is cost efficient. It is cheaper than fossil fuels in many cases, and it is more resilient. You are not relying on a global supply chain of shipping, um, and importing oil and resources. It's there.
Sure.
It's just
And
there.
there is one country that relies heavily, France. You don't need to create a model, right? You have the model. You
Yes.
have the experience of years and years on standardizing on the reactors, right? Having and being able actually to supply electricity to countries around France. I think
Mhm.
in part they do that. I wanted to move on to one example, one case study, if you want. We talked around the soccer football games, right? Is that time again this year? You have Arsenal Football Club on your website. Would you be able to share a little bit more? Of course, nothing that it's is proprietary or cannot be disclosed, but what was your experience with the Arsenal?
Of course, yes. So, Arsenal Football Club are the first and only professional sports team to have SBTI approval. So we always look at companies with SBTI approval or B Corp status because that's a signal to us that they are invested in changing and they have set targets. So with Arsenal Football Club, in line with the SBTI announcement, we upskilled all of their employees, and that was across the stadium at Emirates in North London, and also the training ground. And we also did virtual sessions as well. And the point of this was to explain, firstly, what SBTI stands for, because many employees don't know what that means. Many employees, not just Arsenal, but globally, don't know what net zero means, for example, or can't really understand if they're working in IT or a marketing team where they can make more of an impact. So this upskilling was for every department across Arsenal Football Club, and it was an incredible experience because we had like the legal team and the IT team sat together who wouldn't necessarily talk to each other, but we were finding solutions. It was a very practical engagement with many outcomes, and 97% of the employees that took part committed to taking some action in their role. And in the room at the time, we defined what actions everyone can be taking. So that was wound up into a big piece of work for the club. And also, our USP as a business is for every employee we upskill a young person completely free of charge. So, whilst we were doing that engagement with the employees, we were also out in the local borough of Highbury and Islington, which has many deprived areas in it in London. And we were upskilling young people in colleges and schools, and we were bringing them into the stadium, and we were showing them how Arsenal is using renewable energy, how they are managing their waste and recycling, and offering them insight into some sustainability careers that would be available to them. And some of the ideas that they came up with for Arsenal was incredible. And it was a really great experience. So that was one of our first clients, and it was really incredible to work with them. They are still leading the way in the Premier League on the work that they're doing, and yeah, it was a fantastic piece of work.
Very interesting. You brought in the young generation, which I'm sure. So it's a interesting partnership between your company and a major. I don't know how the UK league is these days. I don't know where the club is, but definitely a major and the brand name. And
They are champions. Yeah, they are champions this year. Yeah.
okay, very good to hear. Again, I'm more historically related to soccer or football. And we talked about AI and sort of one topic we didn't maybe touch enough. It's on the AI governance, especially as your role as ambassador for Anthropic and uh, definitely position more of or as an ethical AI comes into discussions sometimes, not maybe enough times. Any views on environmental impact of ethical AI? We talked a little bit about the data centers, but we know they're becoming front page on sustainability, although we don't
Yes.
use the word sustainability in.
Yes, yeah. The environmental impact is like super worrying, and it's inevitable that this is only going in one direction. So we just need to, um, well, most of the data centers are being built in the US, of which there is little regulation, little governance. You can't even, there's no register for however many data centers are being built right now. That doesn't exist. The only way to track it is through permits for diesel generators across the US, because you can start to see where these build sites are located. Erin Brockovich as well. I don't know, Manuel, if you're
Mhm.
familiar. She did a lot of
I
work,
saw
and
the movie some years ago.
the movie was very popular back in the day. She strikes again. She has created, I'd encourage everyone to go and have a look at it. She has created an incredible portal around community complaints on data centers, which is quite overwhelming. It's a map of the US. It's current data centers that are in operation, proposed data centers, and then there's community concerns, which is basically across the whole of the United States. So yes, it's a very, very real water and energy access. Really, energy access is going to be a big challenge. However, I believe that renewable is the solution, and is one of the best use cases to scale renewable energy. Around um, around the environmental impacts, I would just encourage everyone to think about data centers as token factories. So the data centers are there to process data. It's like a very old computer that we used to have under our desks, just lots and lots and lots of them, GPUs and chips and servers. So this is all raw materials, critical minerals that are coming from some start in the US, they go over to Asia to be turned into machines, and then they come back to the US, for example. So just even before this is built, the supply chain around it is crazy. Then you have the operation, you need water to cool the data centers. So if they are being built in the middle of the US in very hot temperatures, you're going to need more water to keep them cool. Then we are looking at innovation in big organizations. They are token maxing. They are encouraged to use as many tokens as they can to burn through tokens. Every token that is used using AI is a water and energy consumption. Energy
Can be
consumption,
measured
right?
in watts as opposed to bits.
Yeah, kilowatts or gallons. And
Right.
right now, there isn't much research. There is one piece of research that came out last week from Oxford University that's probably the most comprehensive I've seen. You can find it on my LinkedIn. But then we get to the ethical use of this. So right now, there is no regulation on who's using it, how it's being used. Obviously, Fable 5 had lots of headlines and rollbacks and confusion about what this model will be used for. However, I would like to see guardrails and VIP lanes. And what I mean by that is not using AI to generate avatars or fake profiles on social media to sell more plastic to young people, or things that people don't need, mass consumerism. Right now, that's one of the biggest use cases for AI is social media content that is avatars and influencers that aren't even real people, influencers that are selling more stuff, more manufactured plastic to young people who are being exploited, who are being influenced by avatars to sell more things. That to
Mhm.
me is absolutely crazy. Yes, people are making cat videos and people are using it for entertainment, building games, whatever. That's great. That's entertainment. But actually, marketing and the ethics around that is something that I would like to see more regulation of. And then VIP lanes, VIP lanes for healthcare, for charities, for NGOs, for climate tech. There should be a fast lane or a VIP lane or a subsidized lane for those that are using this in an ethical way. And I don't mean mining crypto.
Mhm.
Anything that is having the greater good on humanity should have a VIP lane or accelerated access or accelerated training and upskilling around it, because that is where and how this technology should be used.
Right. And I think in some way we don't have the historical background to build an ethical process around AI. And we know from previous histories, for instance, we know about people getting addicted to internet and so on. And it's a well-studied process, right, to get people hooked.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and this technology enables us to turn off our notifications, receive information when we want it. I no longer wake up and dread opening my inbox because it's already filed for me. My agents are already telling me what I need to know first thing in the morning. So my dread and overwhelm is reduced significantly because I've been using AI to help me in my day and how I work.
So back to a comment, and I want to reserve time also for a future meeting because I think we have so many topics to unwind. But one observation is if we think of AI and the current state of AI, um, could our learning on ethics about and you mentioned, for instance, GDPR as an example of an ethical standard in Europe, in the European Union. Should we move into that direction? Just your, crystal ball.
I think
Protecting the consumer essentially.
yeah, it's already started. It's already started, and the guardrails are not in place. And um, I don't think it's a positive outlook, if I'm honest. I just personally want to make sure that this technology gets in the hands of the right people. Um, but yeah, I think let's look at where data centers are being built. Let's look at where these companies are operating in the US. US is built on capitalism. Nothing is really sacred here. There is no floor. There is no ceiling. So it's there for the taking. And by day, I'm a sustainability professional. By night, I go to AI events. I am immersing myself in this world. And all I hear is it's the wild, wild west. And I think that's
Yeah.
encouraged because it's born in America.
It is, but these are relegated now to Western movies, right? People don't go on horses in the center of Chicago and shoot at whatever the sheriff, right? That's
Yeah.
I don't know if that history even existed or is made up. One
Mhm.
last question for today. What are your recommendations for you working with the young generation? You already touched on or your experience with Arsenal and so on. But what will be your recommendations for intern student looking into a career in sustainability and supply chain? And the second part of the same question, what for somebody that it's in transition, right? Had been 10, 20 years in one business or another and decides to, and I think in some way may parallel your experience.
Yeah, yeah. Number one piece of advice is get AI onto your CV somehow. Whether that is taking 3 free Anthropic courses, you get a certificate, you can put it on your LinkedIn. But some way, shape, or form, upskill yourself in AI. If you can't afford courses, go on YouTube, build something, learn yourself, invest the time in upskilling in AI is number one. And number two is the process is broken, the system is broken for job seekers. So, as an employer, Whenever I put a job post on LinkedIn, I get over 100 responses. Everything is filtered by AI. I don't even get to see like all of the responses unless I go looking for it. Everything that's recommended to me is AI, and most of it is AI slop. So I'm not just calling out LinkedIn. There's other platforms that do the same thing. So do not get beaten up by the process. It's the system that doesn't work. It's not you. It's nothing personal. Get innovative. Don't follow the same process as everyone else. Everyone else is uploading their CV onto LinkedIn. Everyone else is applying for the same jobs in the same way. Yes, you can
Right.
message people on LinkedIn. Everyone else is doing that. Send a letter, a handwritten letter. You can see where people's offices are. If they're remote offices, they get an email version of your letter. Really think outside the box and show yourself in a different way than a PDF CV. How can you show up differently and how can you get attention? Because a PDF CV, I know you're going to spend so much time on it. It's so precious, it's so personal, but it's not the thing that will make you stand out. How can you stand out?
And Katie, maybe send us short video. You know, I'm ready to apply to a job. You know, because I believe in let's say in your contribution to the AI industry and being ethical about it. And I think we share
Exactly.
the same uh, ethics or directions. Or
Yeah,
well,
it may feel
Katie,
overwhelming. Videos are really scary. And also, finally, get to
in it,
events.
well,
Go
well,
on
sure.
Luma, Eventbrite. There's so many events happening at universities, community groups. Get to events, get some business cards. They don't have to have anything on it, just your name and what you're interested in, and get handing out your business cards and get connecting with people.
Right. And don't forget that putting a little mark so people can read it quickly, your name and contact. Thank you very much. I truly appreciate it. I wanted to thank you for taking the time today to visit with us. I want to make sure for our audience to tune in every week for a new episode of AKFI Actionable Talk series. You'll gain new perspectives, fresh perspectives on how to mitigate risks and create value by integrating ESG, AI, digital transformation, and of course, supply chains. Thank you, Katie. And as promised, I would like to continue.
Great. Thank you so much for having me. It's been a good conversation.
Thank you. Uh, um,